Welcome, councillors, to the meeting. Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome the members of the public and YouTube as well. The microphones in front of you is to aid the YouTubers to hear you. I would like to hear you in this room, so if you talk, when you stand up to talk, if you speak clearly, I can hear you quite comfortable, and so can the others. All right, so if you remember that, please. Members, apologies for absence. We've got quite a few.
So, thank you. Borough Councillors Bullen, Ratcliffe and Tyler, and then Town Councillors Councillor Lane, unwell, Councillor Jordan, unwell, Councillor Lewis, work commitments, and Councillor Holt's high temperature.
Well, thank you. This member of the public just turned up. Welcome. Justin Lewis, unfortunately, is at a fire in Eastwich. He got called out just as he was getting ready to come. So he's now there doing our duty for us.
There's quite a few fires.
There's fires everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you. Public members' declarations of interest. Anybody got any with bills or anything? No? Please.
That applies to us for sorry guys.
Here comes Frank. Welcome, Frank.
Very Frank.
Sorry about you.
Sorry, what was you saying?
I'm here.
Sorry, on the allotments, because I'm involved with the other side of that as well. Sorry. Because I'm involved with the other side of that as well.
Yes. So you wanted to declare an interest in that because you're on the... Yeah, it's just as safe.
Yeah.
You can still talk, but you mustn't vote, obviously, if you've got an interest,
Yeah.
as you know. Okay, thank you. Mayor's announcements. I went and handed out medals and trophies at Downham Football Club weekend tournaments at the end of June. Then I suffered 2 weeks of COVID. First event was of the Mayor's Charity Quiz Night, 15th of July. We raised £541, 72 attenders. And I thank everybody who attended and every business who supported us that night. Planning another Mayor's Charity event in September. Between the two beside me are planning that. Attending the kids' performance of Mona on the 22nd of July at the JCC. Guest at Marham's Friend and Family event, the 28th of July. First medals to be given out to attendees of the Kids Running Club, Thursday at 5 miles completed. Children's Cinema, the 30th of July at 2 p.m, free for all. Packets of sweets and drink free for each child. I do believe we might need some support on and some help on that one. Evening cinema returns on the 15th of September. Downton Abbey, £3 a ticket, which is cheap, isn't it? I had a very enjoyable trip to RAF Lakenheath where they held a change of command ceremony, and I was surprised how big their aeroplanes are. My God, they were big. I wouldn't want to argue with one of them if you chucked a bomb at me. As I was unwell, the Mayoress and the neighbour stepped in to present the prizes at the horticultural show, which I was disappointed to miss, as is always a terrific display. I know it is one of the most successful shows they've had in recent years, and they go from strength to strength. Finally, thanks to our retained firefighters and other essential workers for carrying on as usual in this exceptional heat. I think they deserve an applause for that. Thank you very much. Next thing is public participations and written reports from councillors. County Councillor, have you got anything to say, sir?
Well, I have no report, but I have answered all the emails I've had come in. I think there was some, who sent them in, realised that. and I made a payment to the boxing club for the paint, to do the paint of the boxing club.
Oh, thank you
I
very
paid for
much.
that.
Thank you.
Other than
Very kind
that,
of
is
you.
there any other questions?
Anybody
I'll
got
stay
any
here until
questions?
such time as I think that keep cool. If not, I'll be gone.
Any questions? Dave?
Yeah, you know what I'm going to ask you about King's Walk?
Yeah,
Well, now they started to fly tip in King's Walk.
yeah.
So, I mean, are they going to clear that up or aren't they? Because
There is a report. I did ask him, he gave me a verbal, I'm just waiting for a written one. And there is some in it, I don't know if it's possible, but I don't think that's come under them. But I will find the details of it in words, so I can give it to you.
yeah, well, what's happening now is because of the overgrown thing, they've started fly tipping up there.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't keep it clean, they'll just think, well, it's another rubbish area, you know.
Yeah.
I had a word with a priest, what's his name, Mount Mara,
Yeah. Yeah, I know you would.
and he was on to his lot to see about getting some of that cut back. But he said he's had his knuckles wrapped for asking the question. Well, I've been asking the borough's question when they're going to do that. But now, with the fly tipping that's happening up there,
That'll come under the borough. I'll ask one to have a job to get a reply out of the county council.
right, thank you.
So is that a borough job then, is it?
What I can make it as a borough job.
All right, well,
Yeah.
we'll report that to the borough then for Dave.
Or, if, you know, I don't know how much you town council do any clearing and that sort of thing.
Very little, I think.
I know. How much should you be doing? And that's different.
Very little. I don't know the answer, truthfully.
No.
That's not come up as a thing, but we are getting more and more problems with waste and tips and rubbish being
Yeah,
chucked
but
out.
the worst of it is, most of the stuff they tip, they can take to the petrol anyway. You know?
Yeah, but you got to remember that the tips only open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
It's only open 4 days of the week.
Well, there's only 7, so that's all well. So
Yeah.
if they really want to take it, they can take it. There's no excuse just because there's only 4 days.
What worries me is that once that sort of thing starts,
Yeah.
it'll carry on.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, please do.
Just to make a comment about that, there was fly tipping in Wimbersham the other day, and I stopped one of the Kings Lynn trucks and said to them, there's a whole load of fly tipping in Wimbersham on the field, and the next day it was gone.
Oh, good, well done. Let's keep our eye open. If you see any, report it to the office, and then the office can transfer it to the
The
right
problem is, if
people.
it's just in a field, off the highway, because then the person who the field belonged to
Yes.
get the problem.
Yeah,
You know, so they normally throw it just far enough into the field to make either the farmer or
yeah,
the tenant liable for it.
I understand, yeah, you're right. Thank you. You want to say something, Luke?
I was going to say there is a range of sites you can go to at borough and county for reporting this type of stuff, and the reaction of all the 5 types of reports I've submitted through the different borough or county for different incidents, whether it be a damaged curb or whatever it happens, every single time there's been a good reaction, and a fairly quick reaction within a few days. So the service does work. I haven't tried the fly tipping one, but there is one there.
It's going coming back again, you know,
Nice.
it doesn't stop the council for reporting like different anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Council, you can do it from the office.
if any members of the public see any fly tipping, if they
Yeah.
want not to get involved, report it to us and
Yeah.
we'll try and take it to the right department. Okay, thank you for that. Is that all, County Council? Nobody else want to ask any more questions of him? I believe there's a report from the Borough Council, is there?
No, it hasn't been received. It hasn't come.
It hasn't come? Okay. Okay, there's no police presence.
They send their apologies.
They send their public participation. Does any member of the public wish to speak, or a councillor wish to speak as a member of the public? No? Okay. To approve the minutes of the extraordinary meeting on the 28th of June. Is that the one I've got signed?
That was
This one I've got signed, is it?
the...
Yeah. And I have a proposer and a seconder for the minutes of the 28th of June. Yeah? Councillor Lawson, Councillor Pegg. All in favour? Everybody's read it? Yeah? I've just got to sign them there. That's these ones. Yeah?
Sign box.
I've got to sign over here. I'll send it over to you. Thank you. Right. Councillors' questions. Has anybody got any questions they want to bring forward? No? Cool. It's a bit quick meeting tonight. I'm pleased about that. To agree payments of bills. You've seen all the bills. They're in front of you. You've had time to look at them, have you? Okay, can I have a proposer and a seconder for the payment of bills? Councillor Doyle, Councillor Pendleton, T. All in favour? That looks like unanimous, thank you. Right. Recommendations from the following committee. First of all, Finance Committee, sir.
Can I propose that the committee, that the full council accept the minutes of the Finance Committee as listed for the 24th of May 2022?
Seconder, please. Yeah. All in favour? Thank you. Planning and Environment Committee, 3rd of May and the 22nd and the 7th of June.
Can I propose that we accept these minutes and publish these,
Thank you.
those dates?
A seconder? All in favour? Thank you very much. Human Resources Committee, 24th of June.
Ask councillors to accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Yeah, a seconder? Councillor Doyle, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Downham in Bloom, the 6th of June.
Can I recommend to you you accept the minutes of Downham in Bloom for the 6th of June 2022? May I inform you that the boat that we used for advertising and welcoming people has now been gone. Down by the
Okay, thank
bridge.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the minutes are... seconder for the minutes?
Councillor Stephen.
All in favour? Thank you. Property Committee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I ask that council approve the minutes of the property committee for the 2nd of June?
Thank you. Seconder? Who was there? Yeah. All in favour? Thank you very much. Town Hall Committee.
And ask council that you accept the minutes as presented on the 8th of June 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder?
Councillor Lever.
All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Mr Mayor, I said the 2nd of June, I mean, it was the 1st of June, sorry.
Sorry?
I asked for the 2nd of June, the 2nd of June, but it was the 1st of June.
Yeah, that's okay. I can see it was. I didn't want to argue with you. I'll do that later. To receive an update on the allotment lands and agree action to be taken. I'll hand over to the clerk.
Okay, thank you. So we're making inquiries about availability of land with Borough Council. That's ongoing and we haven't got an update to report at this time. We're still waiting for them to come back to us over a couple of sites that we've possibly identified. Also, Alban Wise, who own land within the town. Again, we've had no update from them, and we're in conversation with them. But as of today, we don't have anything to report. We've contacted Mappers Lemon, who we're currently leasing the allotments from, just with a couple of points, a couple of questions in terms of obviously the site is going to be handed back. What sort of state it needs to be handed back. There's some questions around some trees, and it's conversations like that. So that's ongoing, and we'll wait for a response from Mappers Lemon. But in terms of the allotment, we did identify some land in town, but before we could get a chance to bring it to full council, it's now sold subject to contract. But the plot that we identified was down near the Haygate site. It would have probably got 40 to 50 plots on it, but the guide price was 75k. So that's, and we're not aware of any other land that's for sale currently in town.
So if you keep your ears open, if you hear any allotment land that's available, we'd be interested. Okay, Councillor Benton.
Do we actually have to buy the land for the allotments, or can we lease it again?
We can lease it.
We can, yeah.
Is it possible to ask?
We've contacted landowners.
Lease the land from the sixth form?
We're on the stakeholders list with them, and we've asked that very question, and we're waiting an update from them on that, but we've had no update in terms of that request yet.
Right, thank you. Any other questions and answers? Yeah. Item 10, there is nothing to report. Item 11, to receive an update on staff moving out to Paradise Road. We've done that bit.
10.
This was full.
Yeah, our form was rejected.
Yeah,
So
that's what I said, there's nothing to report.
Yeah.
Okay. To receive an update on the staff moving out of Paradise Road and agree actions. Over to you again.
Okay, so the property committee, and I think previously at council as well, indicated that we would like the staff to move over to the town hall area. We've identified number 6. Potentially we were looking at number 4 as well, and we're going to do a joint project there. But that's not going to happen now because number 4 has been sold to a higher bidder. So we're left with the original plan, which is to move the staff into number 6. I had a meeting with the conservation officer today in terms of what we're allowed to do to the building, in terms of what we want to do in terms of making it office space. It is in a conservation area and it is listed. However, on inspection, it's only the upper front wall, so above the front door, that is now listed, because the original wall was taken down, we believe, in the 60s. And internally, there is nothing left from the original build. So in terms of conservation, there isn't an issue there. What we would like to do is get a proposal so that we can get tap into the money that's already allocated in the budget, which was, there was £10,000 set aside in the town hall improvement budget to get an architect in to draw plans, partly for the town hall, but also to include the staff moving to number 6. We'd like permission to use some of that money to get plans drawn up so that we can then submit planning and start the ball rolling in terms of getting builders' quotes and things. But obviously the first thing we need to do is submit a planning application, but to do that we need the drawings. So we're asking if you approve us using some of that money.
Councillor Sharman, can you stand up and talk?
Yeah, sure. If the work to be done is internal, we don't need planning permission, do we?
There is some planning to do, because what we've got to do, we've got to make the front door needs to be wheelchair accessible, so we've got to widen the front door.
Right. So it's not only internal.
The majority of the work is internal, but there will be a plan application and listed building consent because of the door issue.
Okay, but any other councillor wish to say anything before we put that forward? Right, can you repeat the proposal?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, you're all happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, can we have the wording for the proposal, please?
So we would like a proposal that you're given the clerk permission to have plans drawn up using the town hall improvement budget, architect's budget, and then submit plans to the conservation officer and the planning borough, so that we can then get quotes for builders. With this process, currently, from submission of drawings and the planning, both conservation and planning application, we're looking at currently about a 14-week
Right.
wait. So the sooner we can do that, then obviously we can get the
Dave?
As you know, I'm chairman of the Town Hall Committee, and you're talking about using some of that money that we have for the Town Hall improvement to do this. So are you going to reimburse us once you've used it?
Sorry, it's money set aside for it to engage an architect to do town hall plans.
Yeah.
So it's part of that original architect's fee was to incorporate office space for the staff. So there was 10,000 set aside in the budget for architect's fees, a heritage architect. So it's that money that we're looking to do, not the general improvements. We'll look at funding that once we've got plans drawn up, and we'll come back to council with a submission for that, whether that's the contingency budget from full council. But this is initially to get the plans drawn up using that heritage architect fund that we set aside in the budget last year.
Yeah, all I'm worried about is that we've got a number of improvements that we want to make into the town hall, and I would not like to see that money disappear into that without us being reimbursed for it. Can that happen? Have you got another pot you can get it from and leave our money alone?
Yeah, this.
Okay, well, in principle, can we agree that we do this, and obviously we will look at the funding through the financial group and see where we come from. We don't want to miss out this opportunity, because we're wasting money over there which could be used to improve here at the end of the day. So can we have a proposal that we accept the description that the clerk has given us, forget the money, just do the description, and if we never propose a seconder for that, yeah?
I'll propose that because we know we have the funds available elsewhere, we can fund it, we have a plentiful reserve, we can fund it, and we'll worry about the bookkeeping after the event because we know we can do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I have that in writing?
Why not? It is going to be in writing.
Councillor Dole second it. All in favour that we take this project forward? Against? 2. Abstentions, anybody? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move forward then. To receive an update on the skate park and agree action to be taken. As you know, we own the skate park and there's been a little bit damage done to it.
So
There is a cost.
yeah. So previously there was some damage done which we have repaired. We had an inspection from the team at Borough Council, and they identified we do a weekly inspection ourselves now, but this came back on their report. There's some of the decking has lifted, so that needs a repair. It's unsafe. And then on the side panel, don't know how it's happened, but it looks as though somebody's punched a hole into the panel, but it's mild steel, so I'm not sure how they've actually done that. But we've got a patch over there at the moment, but it is quite sharp. So we need to have that perhaps a piece put in with a rivet repair. What we're asking for is up to £1,000 to allow us to go out and get quotes for that repair to take place.
Frank, you want to say something?
Have we got a quote for that repairs yet or not?
No, that's what we're...
Apparently we have a quote.
No,
We haven't got a
We haven't
no,
got a
no.
quote. We need to go out to quote. Yeah.
It's a very specialist item.
I would not like to put a limit on it in case the bill comes in higher.
Right, yeah, because last time we put a limit on it, we ended up spending over 5,000 on it,
Indeed.
and that's not very long ago either.
No, it's
We can't bring it back.
I think we'll let them bring the quote back to us before we decide on it. Okay? Because there's not an urgency about it.
Well, that means we can't do anything until September because we're not having a
Right,
until the
okay,
end of December,
yeah.
that's all. And there is a bit of an urgency.
Councillor Benson.
I'd just like to say that I just think that the skate park is a fantastic asset for Downham Market and for the children that use it. There's not actually a great deal out there for teenage boys, and the skate park is one of those things that is absolutely essential to our local community.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say that I've been down there and seen the damage. And does that mean that the children won't be able to use it? Will it cause any damage or injury to the children that are using it?
I would deem it dangerous personally.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many councils can see that, but there's
Can I ask
sharp
where that
bottom.
is?
That's on the
As
side.
you look to the...
So as you look from the JCC front door,
Yeah,
and then it's the side panel nearest the boxing hut.
right, okay.
So as you walk down the side onto the field between the boxing hut and
As I say, that
the
is...
skate park.
That's part of the side support structure.
Right.
Councillor Lawson.
The risk assessment, that's part of your risk assessment, I presume that can use as evidence for your risk assessment, and
Absolutely.
therefore you can use that risk assessment and your personal opinion to put a closure, temporary closure, something.
We could put a temporary closure on it. Currently we've got a temporary patch on there, which is why we're asking for the budget of up to £1,000 plus VAT to be able to do a proper temporary riveted fix to it. And then if it needs a proper side panel, which obviously will come in at nearer 5,000, we can then come back. But this will stop it being temporarily closed if we can get the riveted patch put on there ASAP.
Councillor Walsh, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, what I was going to say was we have school holidays coming and this facility is quite important to keep the kids doing other things and damage around the town, keep them happy.
No damaging problem. Councillor Levy, you want to say something?
That was exactly what I was going to say. I don't want to
Okay.
see that taken away through the 6-week holiday.
Right, I think what we need to do is make a decision on this one. Yeah, okay. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to suggest that we actually go ahead and get the quote with the £1,000 that you've already suggested to put aside, and if it's any more then we'll have to come back and then raise it, but at least if you start it now, if it's under 1,000 it's repaired and done.
Your decision, councillors?
Let's do it.
I would support that.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
Just one thing,
Can you stand up, Councillor Hampton, so I can hear you?
not to be funny, but what's the chances of, let's say, if we could just get just a piece of metal, drill some holes in it and just rivet it to ourselves?
That's what we're looking to do, which should be within the £1,000 budget.
£1,000.
You think that's a lot? I do.
I think that's to be honest, I think that's a lot of money to
Yeah, to
to
rivet.
just have a little bit of metal, cover it over, and put a couple of rigid, not to be funny.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank
we're
you.
not
If it's a
saying,
whole panel, if it's a massive whole panel, yeah, maybe yes.
yeah, I mean, we're not saying we're going to spend £1,000. What we're saying is, if we've got the budget there, then if it comes in at 800, we can still approve it. If it comes in at 400, then we'll clearly take the 400. But we don't know until that's professionally assessed whether that needs to be cut out and supported or anything like that.
Councillor Damon, you had your hand up first.
Can I remind you that if there is any child injured there, we are liable and it will go on our insurance. Please, let's do the job properly and not just stick a bit of tin over it. I'm sorry.
Councillor Doyle.
I was going to make exactly the same point.
Yeah.
It must be done professionally, it must be done properly, because we're talking about children's rights here.
I seem by the feeling that you want to do some work on this. So you need to make a proposal and a seconder, and then vote for it.
Yeah,
Councillor Moyes had his hand up first.
Okay, yeah, go on.
Yeah, also just to add to that, that the repair might have to be the whole panel, not just a piece what's just patched over the top, because then the children will probably come around and make a hole in the other weak piece of metal. So I think the whole panel will have to be replaced by mild steel, something what's stronger and won't have another hole pierced through it.
Isn't there some more damage apart from just that panel? Because I thought there were some raised bits as well.
There's a raised patch
there's a bit raised up as well. Did you show us a picture of
Yeah,
that?
on the actual
Yeah.
platform, for want of a better
Councillor
word.
Buxton took some pictures
Yeah,
of it,
it's quite
and it
dangerous.
showed the wooden panel that comes down as raised like this, which again is an issue. So
Yeah.
they need to look at that while they're doing
Same piece.
the other bit, yeah, so we need to have it looked at properly. So, because of the slight urgency of this, are you prepared to be happy to give them a grant of £1,000
Yes,
Yeah.
plus VAT to get this job done? Okay,
Yeah.
Councillor Sharman?
I'll
Yeah.
second.
Councillor Buxton? All in favour? Yeah, it's unanimous, okay. That job's done. Next thing. To receive an update on the functionality of a town water fountain and agree action to be taken.
So the water fountain, which obviously is on the,
It's on
Town
the
square.
obelisk out the front there facing us.
it used to have a drinking fountain on there, which before my time, you hear me now? Sorry. Yeah. So the water fountain, the drink component failed some years ago. There was a number of issues around that. We've recovered the part, and we've managed to identify a replacement part. However, that's now out of stock, and it was old stock because they don't make that system anymore. Originally we'd circulated a piece about getting that the drinking fountain element replaced, and I think that was going to be in the order of about £550 plus VAT. However, we've now come across a piece of equipment which would bolt onto our plumbing and would allow you to fill drinks bottles. So perhaps it would be a better option because there's no skin contact on the drinking fountain. So that is a similar price, and what it would mean if you look at the fountain outside there, the aluminium plate that's on the front would come off and it would be replaced with a bottle dispenser, and it would connect to the plumbing behind. So if you would like to proceed with that, it's going to cost you in the order of about £550. The maintenance team can fit it, because it is just a compression connection and 4 bolts. But
Frank was smiling. Carry on.
So that's the update on the water fountain. So that's,
Yeah.
or we leave it as it is, and it's.
Many years ago, during our committees, we had an environmental committee, and part of that environmental committee was a promise to produce a water supply for anybody on a push bike, walking, hiking, that they could stop and they could fill up water. And also, the idea was to go around while the shops were open to ask anybody if they would fill their bottles for them. So that was something that we had in plan with the environmental. But like everything else, I got shelved very quickly about 3 or 4 years ago. So it's an idea to be able to use that, providing it's damage proof, because that's the reason it's not being used, because it was getting damaged fairly regular by people that don't like things happening in Downham Market sometimes. Okay, yes, Councillor Lever.
I didn't even know that was a water fountain, which is dreadful to say. And if we knew it, then I think somehow we've got to get it over to the public. Because I've walked by that so often, and I just thought it was a lovely piece,
Yeah, that was part of the design, yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Moyes was first, I think.
You're behind me today, aren't you?
Yes, sorry, sir. I said you weren't supposed to sit there, were you? Can I just suggest to the full council that the monstrosity what stands there at the moment is not in keeping with this historic town, in my view. Everybody else will have theirs. And I think that take the whole thing away and put in there something of a stoneware fountain, which should be vandal proof and would be so much more in keeping.
Councillor
with
Moyes, that's
this.
not on the agenda. We're talking about a water fountain, not the state where it's going to be put.
No, I'm
So
about
that's not
replacing
in
the
the
water
conversation,
fountain. The water fountain you're talking about I'm on about replacing it with a stone one, which is in more keeping with this historic town and vandal-proof, and I think personally it looked better, but that's my opinion.
Okay. Councillor Walsh, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, that's fairly essential again, and it ought to be done, because walking through town, you see lots of cyclists pulling up there and having a break, and especially on Sunday mornings, lots of cycling groups come through, and it would be good to have that facility for them.
Okay. Frank, you was going to talk.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, sorry if I'm with this.
Take your time.
The previous one, the one that's down there now, we were stopped from using it for health reasons.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Legionnaire's disease, it was something else. So before we approved it, okay, and it's tested out, approved for consumption.
The clerk is aware of that we want to look at Legionnaires and other diseases if that's
It's other
incorporated in
diseases,
it.
just a bit.
It's got to pass all them exams before we can accept it.
Okay.
Councillor Pegg.
Thank you. I think I've had a memory here from a few years ago, perhaps one of you will remember it.
Yeah.
Wasn't this a replica of the one that was on the Howdale?
Very similar, apart from the top.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean, but it was put there, it was taken away from the Howdale and put there as a replica on the Howdale, so to change it is completely...
Yeah, I think it's actually still up there at Howdale, I don't know.
Just as a little anecdote for everybody, when I was on property before, we used to keep getting a bill in to the occupier of the water fountain from the water company until we squashed it in the end. And they thought somebody was living in it.
So the question is, in principle, do you think we should have the water fountain up and running?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the first one? Okay. Councillor Sharman, sorry I missed you.
All I was going to say is, with COVID the way it is, I don't think we want to do anything with that. I'd much rather see this new thing where they fill up the bottom. Because I've seen people try and put their mouth underneath that thing.
Yes.
And with COVID the way it is, we can't do that.
Yes, that was one of my concerns. Somebody? Councillor Wall? Was it? Buxton, sorry. I didn't see your hand up.
Sorry, I think Councillor Sharman might have actually answered it in a way. Have we had public interest to try and do this, or is it more that we're trying to carry on an original start-up query, if you like? So have we had the public actually wanting this to happen?
The answer is I don't know.
Okay.
So we have had the office has been contacted by members of the public asking when the water fountain is going to be repaired. It was, obviously, as you will recall, most of you, when it was done under the redevelopment of the town square, it was used regularly, but
It's gone out.
it hasn't been used for several years.
No.
Partly because we couldn't get the parts, couldn't identify the parts. We've identified the parts, but they're now not in stock. But subsequently, new systems have come onto the market which allow us to adapt what we've already got.
There's lots of things on that square that we tried to get parts for. Turns out they were the end of lines, and that was all to do with China and France and one thing and another that the Borough Council done a deal with. So we had Councillor Damon, you wanted to say something?
All I was going to say is that there's always been drinking water on the town square. It's one of the drinking places in the town, alongside the other one, which was outside Barker's shop. So it's history, and it should still be available to the public of Downham Market.
Well, first of all, you've all said that you wish for the idea. Now you've got to propose a second to the idea. Did anybody else? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Did you want to put on? Tom, stand up, please.
Sorry. Yes, like I said, when you said something about bottled water, I think it will be...
Don't worry about the mic, talk to me.
When you're saying about the bottled water and everything, I think that's a fantastic idea. To be honest, if we have it for bottled water only and everything like that, because there is ways to just... but if we have bottled water to use the drinking water for free water, for bottled water, that'd be amazing, instead of using the drinking fountain as a across it, because I really recommend it as well, because
Okay.
of cyclists, because we do know a lot of cyclists in the down market.
Yeah, I must admit, I've seen quite a few cyclists there using it.
Yeah.
Who wants to use it, yeah. Okay, well, we've got to the stage that we need to make a decision. So can I have a proposer and a seconder that we provide this fountain as economical as we can, and with all the water checks and all the tests that are needed?
So I've got proposed Councillor Leach, seconded Councillor Wiles.
All in favour? Yeah, it's unanimous, so you can carry on with that one. Next thing is to approve the council's insurance policy. It's a renewal time. Over to you.
So you've all had the paperwork circulated to you, and you'll have seen that the insurance policy has seen a huge increase on what we were paying previously. That's for a number of reasons, not least of which is that the current insurer has withdrawn from the market because it's not cost effective, they're not making enough money. It's a specialist insurance policy that we need to get for a town council that covers public liability, employees liability, insures our buildings and our property, and there's less and less providers on the market. Like everything else, we've seen increase in costs, so that has affected the policy. The insurance agent has visited recently, and this, with James Hallam Insurance is our broker currently. We're in a 3-year contract with them. This will be the final year, but they've researched the market, and this is the best quote they can get for us on, with reputable suppliers. But if I could also add that one of the reasons that the policy has gone up is that currently there are 10 active claims against the council. So that affects the premium. So we're a liability in terms of other people taking us on. We have paid out money, and there's other cases ongoing. So obviously all that needs to be taken into account, and when we, through the broker, other companies don't currently want to touch Downham Market Town Council. So it is a huge increase, but that is some of the reasons behind that.
Okay, does anybody want any questions about
Sorry,
that?
just
one more question.
If I just quote the figures for you. So the premium is 16,908.28 plus a fee of £25, and then group personal accident would be £412.68. So it's just over £17,300 thereabouts. So it's it's up from 8,900 I think on the previous year. So it is a huge increase. Notwithstanding that the current insurers have set aside in the order of just under £30,000 to settle claims against the council currently. So that's where we're at.
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, you're picking up a past bills. So I'm afraid we're going to have to bite the bullet and accept the quote.
That's just for a year.
Just for 1 year, yeah. Because we finish, is it this year with them? If we wish.
Yeah, the insurance policy finished on the 7th of July, but we have emergency cover in place because we can't go uninsured as a council. And if you decide not to renew and instruct us to go out and look at alternate quotes, we've been told that this could take up to 3 months to do that. You'd either have to get an interim insurance policy, which would be up to the cost of this one, and not necessarily find anybody that would be willing to take you on.
Yeah. Councillor Pedersen, you want to say something?
It's fine. I'll leave it for the moment.
You're happy with that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, councillors, we've got an issue. Councillor Dawn.
I think when we went to this company, it was quite reasonable in the beginning. So I'd like to propose that we carry on.
We carry on with them, yeah? Yeah.
I think to give it some context, it was £1,000 cheaper last year than anybody else would quote for us.
Frank, you want to say something?
I'll second that.
You'll second it. The proposal is seconded that we continue with this company at the figures that they've given us until we can find something more amicable. And also get rid of some of these debts that we seem to be incurring, which I had no idea about till today. Thank you. Proposal is seconded. All in favour?
To renew the insurance.
To renew the insurance. Yeah, everybody in favour? Thank you. Now, Councillor Bullen's one.
Yeah.
So approved SWIFT policy suggested by Councillor Bullen at the last meeting.
So I was hoping Councillor Bullen would be here to help us fill in some of the gaps. So he has got a budget for SWIFT boxes. The proposal is that we site the SWIFT boxes in the tower on the town hall. It's been identified as a suitable site for a number of factors in terms of height, direction, all of that sort of stuff. We would like to have the boxes professionally installed internally. We don't think it's a job for the maintenance team to be getting onto scaffold and things like that. And as I say, we were going to speak to Councillor Bullen because he has got a budget there, and we didn't know if that budget would include the installation, not just the supply of the boxes. Doesn't say
He was getting the plans drawn by Action for Swifts, so I don't think it included the installation. He referred to Ely Cemetery, and when I spoke to the deputy clerk there, they advised that they'd have their maintenance team, but it wasn't a grade 2 listed building or in a conservation area, and they didn't have to get permission from anybody, so it was a very different case.
So this is a difficult one. I think we need to get some more information, especially as it is a listed building, and also that it's right up here and we need professional people install them if we agree. But also we need to know how much we've got to pay for it, because it is Councillor Bullen's baby.
Yeah.
And he's got a borough income, so he should be able to pay for it in there.
It says the last sentence is, if required through external financial support, me. This is last paper.
What's he saying?
He's referring to the last sentence on the
Yeah,
first
so
page.
it says the project can have minimal cost to the town council with the involvement of organisations such as Downham Market Men's Shed, and if required through external financial support, i.e. Councillor Bullen.
So we could propose that, subject to Conservation Officer's approval, that we could install them in the preferred site.
First of all, is that what you want? Councillor Doyle, you want to speak?
Can we agree in principle? It's a good idea with the Swifts.
It shows we're doing our bit, yeah. But we need to get the building okayed and
the costings.
And the finances correct.
Yeah.
Does it have to be a particular site?
It is very particular. It is,
Yeah.
We could, as a proposal, we could propose that we have a SWIFT policy adopted by the council, and then if it requires funding, we could then bring it back.
Because we can bring it back to finance on the 2nd of August.
So let's have a SWIFT policy proposal. Councillor Pendleton.
Can I just make a suggestion that perhaps an organisation like the RSPB might be available for advice on something like this, further to Councillor Bullen's. I think it's a good idea. I just think we've got very little information on how it's going to happen, who's going to put the boxes up, and whether we actually do need planning permission to put them up on a heritage site. So I think
we don't need planning permission. We do need the Conservation Officer's approval. However, she said in principle she's in agreement, but she wants to know exact size and site location. We've had it assessed, it can't go on the east side, but we're looking on the other 3 sides available. So we have got a lot more information than you have initially been given. You've got the proposal. We've done work in the background closely with Councillor Bullen. We're not quite there on everything, but I think, like the clerk is suggesting, you could approve the SWIFT policy, and then any funding could then go through finance on the 2nd of August when they have their meeting. But if we can obviously do it with no cost, because it sounds like Councillor Bullen's happy to financially support, then you could still have your policy adopted and with no financial input.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Lawson.
Can I propose exactly what's just been said there?
He's proposing that we have a SWIFT policy to start
Adopt
with.
a SWIFT policy.
Can we adopt?
And
And
we'll look at
investigate
costing
further.
thereafter.
Yeah. Seconded? All in favour?
Thank you,
And then we
Councillor.
can go from there, can't we?
It'd be better than the pigeons we have.
It'd be different, wouldn't it? To agree to the update of the safeguarding policy.
So again, this was circulated to councillors. We don't currently have a safeguarding policy. That was one of the things that was picked up on the audit, that we should have a safeguarding policy.
Yes, you did.
So we circulated that to members. It's come back with one amendment, which was from Councillor Inkovaya, which was we changed the word into biennial. So we've done that amendment, but
To just put that in context, we had biannual training. We were meaning every 2
2
years.
years.
And it was suggested that we change it to biennial training so that it's clear that it's every 2 years.
Yes.
It's okay.
So with that change, the policy that we've presented and circulated is the one that we would like you.
Yeah. Would you like to propose your adoption?
I'll propose.
Yeah, a seconder?
Thank you, Councillor Lawson.
All in favour? That looks unanimous, unless Frank's not putting his hand
Yeah,
up.
he's-
Yes, well done, Frank. He was in the SWIFT mode still.
He was safeguarding.
To receive an update from Fields in Trust in respect of the agreement between Downham Town Council and the Fields in Trust on the Queen Elizabeth II playing field. The clerk has got an update on this.
Right, so with your council hats on today and not your trustees hats,
You've got to wear your council hats.
you'll recall that we have a trustees meeting, and so one of the things was discussed at that, and it has been discussed in this meeting before, is the state of the lease, the legal agreement between Downham Market Town Council and the Howdale Community Association. But we also have an agreement, and the site was given over to Fields in Trust. So we've been in touch with Fields in Trust because we're trying to finalise the details of the lease and get it sorted out once and for all. Now, Hawkins Ryan, who did some original work on the lease for us, and Fields in Trust. Fields in Trust have come back and have asked to see a copy of the lease between Downham Market Town Council and the Howdale Community Association, because that lease was never incorporated into the Fields in Trust agreement, lease agreement, deed is the right word. So we've spoke to the solicitor, and as Hawkins Ryan have been doing some work on this. They have done quite a bit of work in terms of for council last year when they were working on the lease, when there was looking around perhaps leases and renting out buildings and things. So they're aware of the situation. They've come back and said if the lease needs renewing and there's work to be done on the lease, then we need to allocate up to about £1,500 to get that finalised and get that paperwork. Plus VAT, sorry. £1,500 plus VAT to get that finalised. So that would be the first proposal, to get the leases sorted out between Downham Market Town Council and Fields and Trust and the Howdale Community Association. The solicitors coming back to us, and we haven't had an update today, but they're doing some further investigative work to find out exactly the wording of the lease and how it should have been presented to Fields and Trust, because it looks as though there's this bit that has been missed. So if you want us to tie that off and get that tidied up, then that's the figure that we're looking at currently.
Yes, Anna.
I don't think we have any choice, because without it being in the full format, then we're not guided. We have no instructions. There's nothing to guide us through. So I don't think we have any choice but to go ahead with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other councillor want to say something? Doug? Yeah.
I'm mindful and agree with Councillor Incavar that that's what we need to do, but it's a matter of making sure that the wording of the various different leases between the parties are in actual fact in agreement with what our intention.
Indeed.
And we don't know, we haven't actually got a statement of the intention clearly visible for us today. Or do you?
Well, no, we don't, because from what we've ascertained so far, that the Howdale Community Association have been left out of that agreement. So as far as Fields and Trust are concerned, they're dealing solely with Downham Market Town Council.
Right.
So Howdale Community Association have no involvement and no control currently, according to Fields and Trust, over that site, because they weren't incorporated in the original deed.
In the lease and agreement.
Now, putting your other hats on, you discussed at another meeting previously that you wanted to keep everything together, but it all revolves around this lease and getting clarification on that. There's outstanding charges, mortgage charges on the deeds and everything, which we've previously discussed, and that would be part of that clean-up process. But it's going to cost you money to sort it out.
Councillor Moyes.
Could I just
stand up, please?
say it's a brilliant idea.
Stand up, please.
You didn't ask Councillor Lawson to stand up, did you, Mr Chairman? Could you ask Mr Lawson next time, if that's okay?
It's fine. Can you stand up,
Yes,
please?
I can. So you treat everybody the same, obviously. It's only courtesy.
If you don't like my rules, then don't.
I'm not saying I don't like rules, I'm saying treat everybody the same. Okay? Could I ask that the think this is a fantastic idea to finally get this sorted out, and obviously all these licenses are going to come back to us with how they're worded and such for us to then agree to. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. And also we need Fields and Trust agreement as well, because we can't do anything without their agreement. But absolutely what we're looking at is to get a budget to get that work started, but obviously we're not going to sign anything without full council or, depending where it lies, trustees agreement to move that forward. But we've got to start progressing it, and that's a ballpark figure.
Okay, what, 1,500?
1,500 plus
You're
VAT.
asking for 1,500
Plus VAT.
Plus VAT.
Yeah.
I'd like to propose
How's
that.
that?
I'll second it.
Yeah. All in favour? Frank, yeah. Okay, thank you.
So, additionally, part of the Fields in Trust agreement was that we should have had a plaque displayed down there, and apparently there was one down there some time ago. It's been removed. We don't know where it is. It's been vandalised, whatever.
On the big stone, on the Howdale,
Yeah.
there's a plaque on top of that one, isn't there?
Yeah, it's been vandalised. So, Fields and Trust can supply a new one, and that's £75. But that was part of the agreement that should be displayed down there as part of the Fields and Trust site. So again, we would need. Yeah. So it's estimated £75. We don't know if that's inclusive of VAT or excluding VAT. So again, if we could ask for about £100.
Councillor Levy, you want to say something?
I just wondered, could they have two? Could we have one at the Jubilee Centre and one on Howdale?
There is one on the Howdale.
Yeah, I know. I thought you just said that one. I've seen that, and that's vandalised, isn't it?
We don't know.
No, the Howdale's not ours.
The Howdale's nothing to do with us. No, that's about.
I thought you just said that.
The Howdale Community Association.
Oh, I'm sorry. I only heard half of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Frank, you want to say something?
Yes, I do. Well, I'm up at what to say. We also do not own the memorial playing field.
No.
No, we don't.
On there, but we do own the memorial garden.
Yeah.
Councillor Pegg, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to propose that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a proposer.
Second.
Second. All in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Is there any more?
Yes.
Yeah, there's another one.
There's another few actually.
Yeah, okay.
One of the things that we looked at, so the deed with Fields in Trust calls the site one thing. We're calling it the Howdale Community Association. Fields in Trust don't mind. They'll amend our records to what their records to our records.
Yeah.
So that isn't an issue. In terms of
Councillor Payne.
Yeah, I don't know if you recollect, but it should also be registered on the property registers that we did that. And it had to be done 3 months after, before 3 months of the well, it's not on there, but there's no form attached to the thing. So whether it was sent off and not registered by them or not, I don't know.
yeah, it's
So that needs to be registered as well.
yeah, it's part of the ongoing
Yeah.
research into the whole the getting through the issues.
I hope you're keeping up with this, you new councillors. There's a lot of things we need to catch up on. And this is paperwork. This is paperwork needs doing. Carry on, Mark.
Sorry. So we'd also been asked by the football club if they could have a lease. So there was obviously discussions around that. Now Fields and Trust need to authorise any lease, but they wouldn't be opposed to one, and they've done it on other sites, particularly around football clubs, sports clubs, because it allows them to access funding. We mentioned in our conversations with them that sort of 20 to 25 years, they recommend leases up to 30 years because it allows you to access funding. So it is possible, but currently you would need Downham Market Town Council approval to do any lease because of how it's structured.
Could I just say on that, I read that report. I'm sorry, I got sent up.
Yeah.
I read that report from the Fields in Trust, and they said about the 30-year lease. But can we, before we get involved in any of that, define what we're allowing them to have, not just say to them, there's a field, you know, you're in it for 30 years. But I think what we've got to do is define it, get a surveyor in there to actually mark out what they're entitled to for their 30 years, not all of it.
Yeah, that would currently be up, as it stands at the moment, for the Town Council stroke Management Committee to define that. The question to Fields and Trust was, would they be opposed to a lease? They're not opposed to a lease, but it would need to be authorised by them. But for them, that'll be for the Management Committee to decide how much you give up to the
Councillor Pendleton.
I would really struggle with a lease because although it does serve one particular part of our community, actually the Jubilee Centre and the fields around it are actually there to serve everybody within the community. And football is a wonderful sport, but it is very male, generally, and it's also, I think it's limited in its appeal. And there are other organisations that could also use that land.
That is we're discussing at the moment because we don't want to give them the whole field.
Yes.
We want to give them what they need, subject to it's our agreement, and the rest can be then a community project. This is the way we was thinking. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. If we go back to the answers you've given, the answer they've given is, yes, we can consent to a lease. This would be a field change request as a lease is classed as a disposal. Think on these words very carefully, everybody. I would suggest 30 years as many funders look for at least 25 years security of tenure. There is more information on their website. You can check what does and what doesn't require our consent, and there's a link. The exchange criteria applies to... this is the disposal policy from Fields in Trust. The exchange criteria apply to any means of disposal, be it a freehold transfer, a leasehold transfer, or otherwise. Land exchanges may be agreed subject to the following criteria being met. The quantity of land to be newly protected must be no less than that to be released by the lease. The equivalent size criterion normally applies to the replacement land being newly bought into recreational use. In certain circumstances, land already in recreational use might be acceptable for exchange, but it would need to be substantially greater in size than the land. The replacement facility should serve the same catchment area as those being released. The definition of a catchment area goes on about whether it's football pitches or indoors or whatever. The replacement land and facilities must have at least the same level of public access to those being released. The landowner must apply as much of the proceeds of the sale as are necessary to acquire and lay out the replacement land. Where the land within England and Wales is owned by a charity or itself registered as a charity, which this is where the lease is going to tie it all up because it belongs to the charity as well. The requirements of the Charities 2011 Charities Act and Charities Qualified Surveyors Reports, regulations, etc. There's a lot to go through. In other words, basically, if you want a lease from them, we've got to get more land equivalent to what we're giving away. And we can't do that because you've got another bit of land somewhere else in the town or outside the town to find.
Thank you, that's that, Robin. I don't quite think we wanted to go down the road of removing what we've got. We just need to tidy up what we've got. We're not going to go anywhere, we're not going to do anything. As far as I understand from the past, that the only thing we hadn't tied up was the lease properly with the football club and the town council with the lease with the Norfolk County Council. That hadn't been tied up properly, as far as I understand.
Just coming back on that, Councillor Pegg's quite right in what he said. We did have a conversation around this with Fields and Trust, and we went back to them following this email, and it's all to do with public access. So it's almost on a case-by-case basis. So if you were, as the trustees, community association, Harrow Community Association, or the town council, depending on where the lease lies and who's got the ownership, were looking for a lease, that would have to be agreed with Fields and Trust. It does come under disposal, but if there is still a certain amount of public access and it's not given over completely to, say, the football club, then there is workarounds. But what we're saying is that potentially there is the ability to have a lease, but there might be a cost of doing that.
Can I just clarify a little bit more? The other thing you've got to take into account is the charity. Now, the charity says, without any discrepancy at all, that you have to keep it as it is for the public in general, like Councillor there said. You know, it's got to be open to everybody, not just fencing bits off and put it to one group or whatever. It's got to be for the whole public.
Councillor Sharman.
Yeah, one of the things you said, Robin, I think, was that if we're going to sell any of that land, we're not.
No.
You said sell, because then we'd have to replace it with alternative land. Well, we're not going to sell it, we're just going to lease it. One of the things that Fields in Trust say, that the lease, as far as they're concerned, has nothing to do with them. I think if you read that report, all we're talking about is a lease is possible to the football club, but a selective lease of how much property we're going to let them lease.
No, it doesn't look like.
Sorry.
I think some of this is for a different meeting.
We've already discussed all this.
Yeah,
it was just
there's things need, all the time something's coming in and we need to keep on top of it. Councillor Bedderton.
I'd just like to answer you that a 30-year lease will result in fences, football markings, goalposts, and we won't, as a result of having leased it to the football club, we will not have any say in what they do.
You can't fence any Fields in Trust land.
Councillor Hangover.
Can I ask, what's the position with the football club at the moment? How they use it? What's the contract?
There is no contract. There's an agreement.
There's an agreement.
That which is now expired for them to play football on that side.
They use the field and then they pay for the cutting the grass and everything else on the field.
So as a follow-up, the agreement is coming up for expiration. What will happen then in the interim period of us making a decision?
They're still on there because the agreement has expired, and they've been to the trustees and management, and we, again for a different meeting, different hats on, we sent an agreement out for them to renew that agreement. They came back not signing the agreement but wanting a lease, and this is where this is all come
And
from.
just one further, I too read through that thoroughly, and I agree with what Robin has said, 100%. That's my interpretation, exactly.
Councillor Lawson, you better stand up, sir.
Reason to stand up.
Give up, Stephen.
The mic's moved.
Don't worry about the mic.
One of the things we discussed at another meeting was the need to clarify all the terminology, who does what words mean what. I don't believe we're actually in a situation now where the group is of us has a good common understanding of all the terminology that's in use and all the limitations, etc.
I think we understand. I think all of us understand exactly what's happening.
Well, I'm legally trained and I don't.
No, I think that's patronising.
There are lots of confusions.
Can you let one person talk at a time, please?
So maybe we have one person in this room who's not confused at all. There's quite a few of the rest of us who are confused. So there's ongoing clarification, clean-up, compartmentalising, and separation of what is what. It still needs to be done. We cannot make a decision on the whole lot until such time as it is clarified.
And it's the lease that is key to it.
How can we bring this soon to conclusion?
Well, and if I could just come into a final point.
Mr. Mayor, I've been asked.
Go, sorry. I didn't see your hand up, sorry.
There's another anomaly in this. After all this started, we bought the OTC, and that belongs to the Downham Market Town Council. It doesn't belong to the Hotel Community Association. So that's another thing you've got to think about. And I think it's a bit strong saying that football is now male sport. Have you seen the television lately?
Tomorrow night,
They have a remit to film the ladies as well, but statistically it's very much.
Absolutely.
Councillor, can we come through the chair, please? Councillor Moyes.
Is it possible to be an intermediate in this discussion here? Are we able to ask the football club, when we propose this lease, that with them getting a 25 or 30-year lease, that they then, in this lease that we make up for them, that they then put in for funding to probably enough funding they can probably get hold of to put a all-purpose pitch down for all sexes and generations, with hockey, football, netball, basketball. Could that be put in or asked if the football club can request these? Obviously there's a lot of money out there to be got hold of, and if I'm right, that once they've got 25, 30-year lease, that they can claim all this money.
Okay, do you want to answer?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, lots of organisations, sports organisations, and other community organisations. Funding is more accessible if you've got a long-term home to operate from. The lease and where that lease would come from, whether it be Downham Market Town Council or the Howdale Community Association or Fields and Trust, that's for almost for another meeting. There would be potentially costs in terms of agreeing a lease. What we were trying to do is ascertain where the current agreements lie, and before we can do anything, we need to clarify the ownership and square the leases away. So it's historic. and this has been an issue almost for 20 years. The original lease was 20 years. It's now expired, but it's a protected lease, so there's no problem with it being moved off that side or anything. But what we need to do now, we need to clarify all those different elements, bring them together, and that's what the solicitor's proposing. So that's why we're saying if we could have a budget of up to £1,500 plus VAT, we can bring something back to council, bring something back to the trustees, and you know, that's what we're looking to do. As a final point on the fields in trust, we did look at the JCC building, for instance, and wanted to know if we could operate a nursery from there, as an example, because part of the original Howdale Community Association agreement is for educational purposes. But Fields and Trust have come back and said that would be a commercial enterprise, and if we entered into an agreement like that, it would be considered disposal, and we would need to provide Fields and Trust with a similar site. So that is a no-go to have a nursery in there, unless you prepare to find another site to offset that one. So that was just a bit of an update as to where we are in terms of Fields of Trust and the ownership, because the agreement that's currently in place is between Downham Market Town Council and Fields of Trust, and we just need to work through that.
I personally would like to see this get clarified, get cleared up. I'm a little bit mixed up with what's going on, so I would like to propose that we actually...
We've got the vote on the money, yeah. So
on the money?
Yeah.
I propose that we allow them up to £1,500.
Yeah, we've got that.
Second, John Dole, all in favour?
Yeah, we've done it.
We've already got that vote.
We've got
okay.
that, so
we've got the vote, so you can carry on.
Yeah.
Right, that was a difficult one. Discuss staffing requirements during private hire of the town hall.
So, one of the things we've been one of many things that we've been working through as a team is identifying risk where we see it, and obviously bringing it to your attention. So you'll be aware, we hire out the town hall. We have our own functions in here. Quiz was one last week, but we hire to third parties, and it's just to get. And I'm sure you probably all are aware, but just bring it to your attention that the current procedure for the building is that let's say there's a private hire, so the staff will come in and open up the building, set up the rooms as per the agreement, and if it's a regular hirer, we might have a seating plan, room layout plan, so we'll set up the room. They will then leave. They won't hand any keys over to the hirer, but they'll leave the building, and then depending on the booking, they'll usually come back half an hour before the end of that booking to see people off the premises and to pack up and put away. So for instance, if you talk about the town hall as a venue, so a whole day hire is from 8 a.m. to midnight, that's 16 hours. Staffing, we would normally have 3 maintenance officers, but we've only got 2, as you know, we're trying to recruit. So normally that would be 3 times 37.5 hours a week that we have available, but that doesn't cover potentially the whole hire period. The staff currently, and I'm talking primarily about the maintenance staff, are not on call, but do get called out to fire alarms and things that happen, and there's a payment for that should they be called out. But they're not on call, so there's no obligation for them to pick up the telephone. Currently, there is no in-call place. So our concerns are that during a hire period where there's no staff member on site, there could be a water leak in the building, there could be a gas leak, a loss of electricity. For instance, we're doing a cinema, so if the power goes off, that's that hire finished. There could be a suspicious package left in the building and its actions on that. There could be a failure of equipment. Numbers could swell and there could be an additional requirement for seating and tables, but there'll be nobody here to do that. If there was a fire in the building, who's going to get everybody out? Who's going to call 999? There could be theft. The door's not manned, so you could have somebody down in Britain in the grand hall, but people could come up here. It's not manned now. Yeah, I mean, we don't know who's downstairs currently. Hopefully nobody. So that opens up the building to theft and vandalism, control of entry. We're not allowed to give high-rise keys because of insurance. Keys could be copied. And what we have had recently was a lift failure where we had people trapped in a lift. So we don't think, as an office team, that if we're going to hire this building out, that it should be unmanned. It's slightly different to perhaps your village hall in parishes and things, but we're treating it effectively as a village hall, but it's very different. We're in a town centre. It's a bigger building and there's more risk associated with that. Now, as I said, we are trying to recruit a third maintenance officer, and that will help some of that. We are trying to recruit a market porter, so that will help free up additional hours then. As office staff, we've been over and locked up the building, sat in the building and manned the building. But what we're doing, we're making you aware of it because you as a council carry the risks should anything happen. And what we're proposing is that we perhaps that we have it manned during those periods that it's open. So the maintenance team will primarily do the bulk of that work, but it might be that we need to get councillors in to come in and sit in the building. But to do that, you would obviously need a bit of training because you need to know where the electrical isolation panels are, etc., etc., etc. Actions on, the assembly points. So that's.
So do you need that to go back to human resources for some support? Is it something, Dave, that you could look at as a human resource?
Do we recruit casual staff to?
We actually did partly discuss it, didn't we, at the last HR meeting. We thought, here we go. We thought it might be an idea to ask councillors to, apply to go onto it, but whoever does it, if we could get half a dozen, for instance, out of 20, what we'd need to do then is make sure they got training, they knew where all the bits and pieces were, because with this new electrics, I've run this place for 10 years and I couldn't tell you now where the electrics are.
They're all so easy.
We're all going to need it. But I still think it would be a good idea if we got more involved as council.
Right, do you think that's something you could do through the HR and come up with a suggestion? And Val keep jumping up and down? Go on, Val, that'd be good.
I'm sorry, but I wouldn't like to be looking after electricity and all things like that. No way. I'd happily come in for a few hours or something, but I think that is something that you should be hiring somebody. I know.
Yeah.
Or certain events that you hire and rest we come in or something. I don't know. It's difficult.
From the insurance company point of view, I'd like the risk to be matched with whatever the insurance company says before we make any decision. Because the risk assessment the insurance company would have some impact on the premiums as well, and it has to be consistent with what the insurance company says.
Councillor Moyes.
If my memory serves me right, we've always had a caretaker of the town hall, and I think that was Trevor Goodwin for many years, and his father previous to that, Ron. Can we not have a caretaker again like we used to have, and then have someone who's qualified and trained to substitute for holidays or whatever? Because I think they was full-time caretakers.
So we've got the maintenance officers for that. As I say, what it is at the moment, we're down from 3 maintenance officers to 2. The plan is to obviously to recruit that third one if we can. That obviously mitigates that. We're looking at obviously the staff coming over here, which would help, because then the place would be manned during the day, and that is part of that process as well. But it's an awareness piece primarily. We can obviously discuss it at HR, and we have discussed it at HR. But probably we're probably in breach of our insurance actually in terms of what we're currently doing. And if we were to get, for instance, councillors to, and notwithstanding what you said about the electricity, and it would be a case of just resetting fuses, but notwithstanding that, would councillors be willing to go onto a call-out list? Should you see out a hire at 10:30 and then, at 10:35 when you've just got home, they come back and they've left their car keys inside the town hall and they want to get back in, would you be willing to come back? And it's all those sort of things.
Well, as a woman, I wouldn't want to come back at 10:30 at night. I think you've got to think about our safeguarding as well for us.
I think I'd like this to go back to HR for them to come up with some policy, whether it is a caretaker situation, rather than thinking of asking us to volunteer, because you all give your time up now as much as you can, and I think that's a bit odious task. I've sat in that town hall and people have rattled the door while I've sat in there, young people obviously. Yep.
In terms of first aid, I mean, I'm a call out of where I work at the moment, so I don't have a major problem. Again, as long as everything's done as it should be, but I do get Councillor Lever's point.
Yeah.
Have we actually got any people I presume we've got people first aid trained, if obviously, the cinema and things like that, if anything were to happen or events, we've got someone who can administer, or would we rely on the emergency services to do that? Because that's another first aid.
So all of the staff are first aid trained at work, but that obviously only applies if we're here. If we're not here, then there wouldn't be a first aider on site and you'd have to use the emergency services.
Can I, as a member of HR and listening to councillors' comments, I think it should go back to HR to go through all the pros and cons. I think to rely on councillors, even on a call out, is fraught with problems, because we may be doing something or other. We are what we are. We may not be able to. We might ask someone else to come out, and then the building may be left open, etc., etc. So I think it's best to come back to HR, and HR come up with a plan to bring back.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Can we accept that? Can we have a proposal that we take it back to HR?
I'll propose.
A seconder? Yeah, Councillor Lever. All in favour? Okay, thank you. The last one, accept terms of reference of the Human Resource Committee.
So this has been circulated.
Yeah. I'd like, as Chairman of HR, I'd like the Council to accept the terms of reference of Human Resources Committee. We've got copies of that.
It's been circulated electronically.
That's been everybody's had a copy apparently.
It is on the table as well.
It's on this table as well if you want. Okay. All right. Are you proposing that? The seconder? All in favour? Yeah, it looks like unanimous. Thank you. Right, the last bit, 20 is not happening. 22, submit items 21. For the next agenda. Yeah?
So I would like to put on the agenda that the people that do a wonderful job of putting the Christmas lights up get a bit more money every year, because they had quite an expensive year last year. And I think that I know I do, I love to see the Christmas lights, and I think it's really important for the town, and I don't think they get enough for what they do when they do it for nothing, just for the people.
Yeah, they have an opportunity to apply by grant, so that we suggest that they apply by grant.
But can we not offer, out of goodwill, can we not give them a little bit more? I know we give them £1,000, don't we? But I know that the lights are not looking at the greatest. They need, and they actually store them for free for us, and they put them up as well.
I hear what you say, but they've got the opportunity to apply by grant.
Okay, fair enough.
Anything to go on the next agenda? No? Okay. To confirm the date of the next full council meeting is currently the 20th of September.
Can I just go back very slightly?
Yeah.
What you just said about items on the next agenda, to stop councillors actually during this next month to put something on the agenda.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it now because you might not know.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, we don't want too much during August because we want to catch up a little bit, and staff have got holidays and one thing and another. So to help them, if we can keep the agendas down or the meetings down so they can catch up on everything. Okay.
The 20th of September.
So the 20th of September is the next full council meeting. I say thank you very much. End meeting.